Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm Hilmarie Hutchison, and today we have an extraordinary guest, Raghav, better known as Reggie Jerath. Reggie is the founder and CEO of Hydro, a pioneering platform revolutionizing internet monetization. With over a decade of entrepreneurial experience, he has led multiple ventures to remarkable success. Let's dive into his story and hear from Reggie himself. Welcome, Reggie, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
So can you start off by telling our audience a little bit about yourself, your background?
Sure. My name is Reggie, founder and CEO of Hydro, a founding partner of Gap Capital Partners, and one of the co-founders of Crypto Fight Night. Grew up most of my life in Dubai, but all over, spent some time in Canada, UK, a few other places. But Dubai is home.
Now, when you were growing up, crypto was not a thing yet, was it? How did you get into the crypto space?
My first exposure to crypto was probably back in university in, I think it was like 2012, 2013, 2011, something like that. I think Bitcoin was maybe 600 pounds or something like that. And being uni students, we didn't know too much about Bitcoin. We didn't even know you could buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. So we bought Litecoin instead. That was my first ever exposure to crypto. Then properly getting into crypto, I started as a miner, as a hobbyist miner, mining using spare laptops and stuff like that. And I was mining Monero, Ethereum, Zcash. I think those three mainly, maybe something else. I was using something called, back then was famous called NiceHash. And that led to everything now.
And you mentioned Crypto Fight Night. What is that?
I think in 2020 or 2021, I'm out with all the boys and we're all drinking, getting drunk. And as men do, two guys had previous fighting experience and they came together and they're like, I'll take you. No, I'll take you. Money was put down to the bet and they shook hands. But obviously being very drunk, no one took it really seriously. But then I get a call 3 months later from the guy who was supposed to organize it. He's like, Reggie, he's like, I've never put on a fight, let alone an event in my life. Do you know anything? I'm like, bro, what the hell do I know about fights and events? I'm like, well, let me check. I call one of our other partners at Gap Capital, Rahul. I'm like, bro, do you know anything about putting on fights? He's like, no, but we can try. And in 2021, we had our first crypto fight night here in Dubai at La Pearl. I think we had maybe 8 or 9 different fights sanctioned by WBC, and we had the world's first WBC crypto belt.
Amazing. What a story. I love that. I know you're very much into Web3 and crypto right now, but let's go back to how you got into the world of business and entrepreneurship.
My first exposure to business was my dad's or family oil and gas business, where I learned a lot there. I was very young at the time. It was kind of in a leadership position, which is both pros and cons. Obviously being very young and experienced, you get exposed to a lot of things very quickly. And then post all of that, working in the family business, I was in marketing. I joined a company called Publicist Group for a few months or about a year roughly. And they hired me because they had an oil and gas client that needed someone with the technical knowledge. At Publicist, I learned copywriting, I learned graphic designing, or at least the basics of graphic design and a bit of video editing and media buying. I learned what PR was, all this. I knew nothing about marketing, like absolutely zero. So it was a very good experience to gain all those skills. I then bounced around a couple other marketing companies for a while and then founded my first startup, which was basically a concierge that pivoted into a logistics technology platform where imagine like you have Deliveroo and Uber Eats here, right? We had a similar thing where we had the riders, delivery boys, riders, etc., and the tech stack. After all that, I was a consultant for a little bit, and then I I founded Hydro back in 2018, or what was Hydro back then called Gavin.
So with all this experience working with a family business, working with publicists and all that, what was it that led you to want to start your own business or your first entrepreneurial venture?
My first startup, I was solving a problem for myself, to be fair, because I needed a concierge. I needed like help in getting basic things done. And I was in a new country. I didn't know anything. So it started from there. And we just kind of grew to where it made the most sense. And that's why we pivoted from the concierge model over to the logistics platform. And then solving or founding Gather, i.e. what is Hydro, it was coming from a problem that I saw. Like someone called me and that's what, I was a consultant for a little bit. He's like, can you help me monetize my content without ads? And that's, I saw that was a very big problem and there was a solution to it. And that's how it kind of came about.
Brilliant. It's always good to start a business where you're providing a solution to an existing problem. So can you tell us a little bit more about Hydro and what it does?
Hydro was born from Gather back in 2018, and we're solving for how the internet makes money, right? Essentially, we were trying to create a we are trying to create a monetization system that doesn't have to rely on advertising. And it uses crypto or blockchain specifically. Gather, which was a version 1 of Hydro, was born out of what's called proof of work mining, if you will. So you'd visit a website with Gather enabled, you'd give your explicit consent, and your PC would be used to mine cryptocurrency, our blockchain, secure our blockchain specifically. We built in a way where it didn't damage or do anything like that, or spin up your fans or heat up your CPU. And, that was a good model because it's scalable revenue in trade of processing power. It's very scalable, actually. However, I think maybe that model, it just had a lot of problems with, one is it was proof of work mining. So there's a large stigma associated with it that proof of work mining is burning the forests and Bitcoin mining is killing the world type of thing, which isn't true. But that was always a very large barrier to acquiring large customers. And the second was being a crypto-based solution or blockchain-based solution, there was always hesitation for large clients to be the first to jump in. And that's when we pivoted into Hydro, where it uses mining, but not what's known as proof of work. It uses what's called proof of stake. Essentially what happens is publishers sign up, they come to a freemium-based version, right? They see the platform, they like it. And if they want to, then move to the paid version, which is anywhere between $500 to $1,500. And in the paid version, all the money that's paid to us is actually collected together. And we run what's called validators. Validators are basically how blockchains get updated, how transactions get processed. In return for running these validators with that money collected from the publishers, we pay out the yield or the revenue generated from the validators to the publishers, essentially. And we take our cut in the middle.
Wow, what an interesting model. You mentioned the stigma around proof of work and using up resources and fees. For our listeners who don't understand what that's about, can you please unpack that, explain it a bit, and why you say that stigma is wrong?
What is Bitcoin? What is crypto? What is blockchain? A blockchain is nothing more than a public ledger, like an accounting book with debit and credit entries. But everyone can view these entries, and to update that ledger, that blockchain, everyone in the ecosystem has to agree. And for participating in the network, for updating the ledger, for adding transactions, well, not adding transactions, you get paid a reward from the blockchain itself, which is called block rewards. The system of updating that blockchain is what's known as mining, proof of work mining specifically. What happens is you have these specialized machines. They're called ASICs, application specific integrated circuits. They're built specifically to mine Bitcoin. When I say mine Bitcoin, is to update the ledger and process transaction. For doing so, that owner of that machine, that specialized hardware, gets paid a little bit of Bitcoin. Early on in 2020, 2021, Bitcoin mining was going through the roof. It's generally energy intensive. There's a lot of offsetting that happens right now. And there was a lot of misinformation. People thought we're comparing Bitcoin's energy consumption to cities, world, etc. But the media made it way worse than what it actually is. People are mining Bitcoin in green manners, so using solar, etc. People are using geothermal. But there was a stigma because the media didn't actually understand how the actual energy footprint or carbon footprint that Bitcoin mining created.
You mentioned that blockchain, it's very secure, but it's also public. Record keeping that's public to everyone. How do people feel that everyone else can see the value of their cryptocurrency wallet if it's so public?
So you have public blockchains and you have private blockchains as well. And you also have privacy preserving blockchains. So the thing is, if you come in as an outsider to crypto, this industry, and you don't know if someone's wallet address belongs to them, you wouldn't ever know unless they tell you or you find some other information. How these addresses are is that it's just a string of alphanumeric letters in most cases, about 12, 24, 40 different letters. It starts with in case of Ethereum, it's OX something, something, something. So you don't know that says, hey, this is Reggie's wallet. In the beginning, you wouldn't know unless you're tracking that wallet and you see certain patterns. But the transactions of all that wallet are public. So you can find ways to keep your anonymity alive, or you can use privacy preserving wallets as well, which has their own issues in terms of regulations right now, where people can't see what transactions you're even doing, to be fair. If you don't have information about someone's wallet and who it belongs to, unless you get external information, you wouldn't know. But it's not the hardest thing to also find out whose wallet belongs to who, especially if people have, certain kind of footprints online.
Right, because the minute somebody made an exchange with you from their wallet to yours, you now know what their address is. So I guess once you know, it's not that difficult to track people. That was just the question, is how do people feel? Because you really can't hide the value that you have. That would be a concern, I think. Let's change subject a bit away from that one, but very interesting. Thank you for explaining that. You're also a founding partner of Gas capital partners. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
GAF also started the same time around Crypto Fight Night, I would say, maybe around that time. And it's just a bunch of us guys who grew up here, our family businesses. It's led by His Highness Sheikh Moalab from Quain. We have Tariq Kaptours and a few other people as well. And we basically came together. And in the beginning, we were just investing our own money into promising startups within the Web3 ecosystem. At that point, there wasn't like a very prominent UAE-based crypto VC that was from here. What was happening is you're seeing VCs move from abroad to UAE. And this also happened at the same time where a lot of different companies, Web3 projects, were coming to UAE and they didn't actually know how to navigate the landscape. It is different, right? From knowing how to get in touch with certain government departments or banks, regulators, potential clientele. People didn't know how to deal with that, especially with like from a cultural difference perspective. So GAF kind of emerged like as we were investing, people always ask like, hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us with this introduction to this government department? Hey, can you help us with opening up a company there? And we kind of became this value add investor out here because it's not just the capital people want, it's the network and the access we're able to provide to various different things. And that still goes on today as a sister company called Gap Labs. We're doing that for a lot of our portfolio as well.
When you are looking to invest in a startup, are you looking at any kind of startup, or are you focused on startups that have the potential to have an impact on the blockchain industry?
So the way we invest is that every partner kind of has their own flavor they like. Some guys like gaming, some guys like social-fi or social-based finance. Personally, I love infrastructure-related projects, always have, and that's probably because of Hydro and Gather, and because it's partially an infrastructure layer, public-facing dApp. So everyone has their own flavor, and we kind of look at each deal and be like, okay, hey, let's do this. The financial models are good, the traction's good, the team is good, or it's not good, and we pass type of thing.
So what qualities do you look for in startups when thinking about investing or supporting them?
From my perspective, because Web3 and crypto is I'm going to use the word niche compared to like traditional finance. It's not that niche, but one is understanding if the founder knows how to capture attention from the audience, because it's different when you're launching a crypto company with your own token, right? Because essentially what's happening is in the traditional finance world, you go through a seed round, a Series A round, B round, C round, and eventually you list at the IPO or some merger and acquisition, right? And by the time you IPO, you have hundreds of thousands of users, multi-million dollars in annual recurring revenue, et cetera, et cetera. And then your shares are public. In crypto, these tokens, you're essentially launching the token in 90% of all projects when the company is either pre-revenue or just starting out revenue. I mean, not in Hydro's case, to be fair. And now you've thrown this volatile cryptocurrency, which is trading in multiple places, which also has a use case in your own blockchain. You want to see, like coming back to the question, that founders know the upsides and the downsides and know how to navigate the downsides very well, because you're essentially just dealing with anywhere from hundreds to tens of thousands of public investors, right? Who will complain, who will ask this, who will do that. It's almost like running a public company. And then you also look at the team to see if they understand the financial aspects, i.e. what's known as tokenomics, right? The inflation rate of the token. How will the token gain value because of whatever utility it may make or have? And then you look at the technical team, how they're doing it, past records, if they've had previous startups, if so, what kind of exits, things like that matter.
Let's change direction a little bit back towards Web3. How important is community engagement in the Web3 and crypto community space, and what efforts do you make to foster a strong, supportive community?
Sure. I think having community support is one of the most important things, right? You have your community and then you have your users. Your users, eventually, a large chunk of them will become part of your community. It's extremely important. You need evangelists. You need flag bearers of your product, of your token, people who are cheering on for the company in the back end, in public, wherever it may be. It's extremely important.
Does that mean Discord, chat rooms, being available to talk to them? In what way do you build the community?
There's many, many different ways, but and it changes cycle to cycle. Like last cycle, it was a little more different. This cycle, it's a little different, but right now, our approach is a lot of video-based content in terms of just getting content out there. And what we talk about, you do what's called AMAs. So ask me anything. You go into different groups, people then listen to what you have to say, and then they'll join the community if they like. You use influencers to talk about the project. So you've been reaching a large audience. In real life, meetups matter also quite a bit. Going to people, talking to them in person matters. So you have to do various different things, from also PR, press releases in various outlets. You're just getting noise out there about the company, and then people who are interested will come into the various channels. So be it Telegram or Discord or Twitter, whatever it may be.
What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly those looking to make an impact in the tech and crypto industry?
How would you say impact? Like a large amount of users, a game-changing product? I think everyone's definition of success is different, right? But anyone who's coming into this space as a Web3 entrepreneur, the biggest thing is your network is your net worth. 100%. Without a network in this space, it's really hard to get anything done. And if you are able to get things done, you're just going to pay absorbent, extremely crazy amount of fees for various different things. So network is super, 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 super important in this space.
I think that's excellent advice, because I think that's true in all industries, to have a good network that can support you, especially when things are difficult and you're facing challenges. To have someone that you can reach out to and help you through that period is very important. So I think that was excellent advice. Thank you for that. Now we've come to the segment of our show where I'll ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
I am ready.
3 essential qualities or traits for success as an entrepreneur.
Perseverance, number one. Definitely perseverance. I think it's probably the most important. The ability to hustle or be thrifty, if you know what I'm saying. Stretch a dollar to the maximum level, and a certain amount of emotional intelligence.
How would you describe a good work culture?
Get shit done, in the beginning at least. From when you're going from 0 to 1, everything is just about shipping and getting stuff done, just hitting milestones and hitting milestones, hitting milestones. Going from 1 to 5 and then 5 to 100 is different things. You're going from a startup to a scale up or etc.
What's one social media network that you cannot do without?
Probably Twitter and Telegram.
What's something new happening in your life right now?
Right now, in my life, personally speaking, I don't know. Things are pretty much on autopilot to me, but I don't know about anything new. I like camping.
That's amazing for a Web3 crypto techie guy to love camping. I love that.
It's because the amount of screen time you spend and everything in tech is so pervasive. I need to be able to get out into nature. Like, it's not just camping, but like anything outdoors, nature, scuba diving, snorkeling, hiking, camping, but just getting away from screens every now and then. I keep some of my hair and some version of my sanity.
What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
Play with my dogs, speak to my family.
And now I'd like to ask you about your green pill moment. What green pill advice would you give to your younger self?
Buy Bitcoin, start mining Bitcoin when it was CPU mineable, and just don't look back. Buy Bitcoin as early as possible.
I think a lot of people would have given themselves that advice, right? If they knew where Bitcoin was going to go.
You don't even have to buy it at that point. You could just mine it through your phone or your laptop, leave it on, and you'd get like a good chunk of Bitcoin every day.
That would have been your advice to yourself. You would have been in a different place today if you had started younger. Well, thank you so much, Reggie, for sharing your story with us today. I am sure that there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs that will be inspired by your story and the advice that you've said. Before we say goodbye, could you please tell our listeners where they can find and follow you? And we'll also put this in the show notes.
For sure. You can follow Hydro at Hydro Online. If you just type it on Google, you'll find our Telegram, Twitter, Instagram accounts. GAF Capital, you can find also just Google, Instagram, Twitter. Crypto Fight Night, specifically on Twitter and Instagram. My personal handles are Reggie with a 3 and J on Twitter and Instagram. And Raghav Reggie Jerath on LinkedIn.
A lot of places people can connect with you. Well, thank you again for joining us. I wish you all the very best. We'll be following your journey as well.
Thank you for having me on. This was an absolute pleasure.
And for our lovely listeners, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as I have loved recording it, please share this episode with your friends, family, and any aspiring entrepreneurs you know. Also, don't forget to like this podcast and subscribe to our channel for more such inspiring content.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.